Welcome to the Finding Purpose LiveCast, where we feature authors, leaders, and speakers of purpose on a live platform to have truly authentic conversations. And now your host, Davin Salvagno.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Today, we are here with Jeff Zupancic, who is the founder of Mosaic Business Consulting. He is also a member of the Purpose Point Fellowship and has become a good friend of colleague of mine over the last couple of years. And Jeff, I love your background. Is that waterfalls, stepping stones? That's very creative. Is there a significance behind that?
Yeah, Devin, thank you so much for asking. Yeah, every time I'm in a Zoom meeting, because obviously in this time of COVID, there's a lot of Zoom meetings going on. I have very specific backgrounds, and this one in particular, I enjoy a lot because these are stepping stones and actually reflective of the work that I do. When I work with my clients as a business consultant and an executive coach, it's really about taking steps that are the right steps for that individual in their journey, in their life, and in their business. And so sometimes we're taking a small step from here to here, and sometimes we'll take a big step from here to way up there because that's what's right. And so that's why I have stepping stones.
I love it. I love the symbolism behind that. And I'm almost wondering, I'm looking at the water rushing through that. There's so much that we could play with that. I'm not going to do that right now. My creative mind just started to go off on a tangent. But so you mentioned, obviously, you're a business coach, you're an executive coach, you work with clients, and we'll kind of get into what you do here in a little bit. And for our listeners today, I've appreciated getting to know who you are as a person. And I know that you have an inspirational journey and story. So why don't we start there? Why don't you take us through kind of your journey of who you are and this path to consulting that you have been on to where you're at today?
Right, thanks. Yeah, I love sharing this because it's been an adventure for certain. So I've had my own business consulting practice now for 11 years. And prior to that, I spent 17 years in corporate with $500,000 companies, two $500,000 companies. One of them was J.D. Power and Associates. Spent 9 years within the last 9 years of my career. And, basically we're given this script in life that goes something along these lines: go to school, get good grades, go to college, get your degree, get the job, get the spouse, get the house, have kids, send them to college, retire. You do those 8 things, you're going to live a happy life. And what's interesting is I was 3 kids deep into that script, and I woke up one morning and I was like, there's got to be something more to life than this. I had a great salary, the house, all those things in the script at that point. And I'm like, something is missing. And I really felt like, wow, that morning I woke up, I was really bored. I could do my job in my sleep. I love mentoring and pouring into people, but that was only like 5% of my job. Right around the same time, I was doing the executive presentation for Ford Motor Company at their world headquarters. And so I was doing the J.D. Power presentation, and I'd say to the executive team there, here's an issue when people bring their Ford in for service. And I'd say first issue, and the head guy would say, hey, Tom, take care of that. And then I'd say the second issue, and he'd say, hey, Sue, take care of that. And I walked out of the building that day, and I was like, that's the exact same story I told him last year. And I really felt like so far removed from making a difference in people's lives. And it was really, that was I would call my nudge, my God nudge, to kind of break free of that pattern, that script for life, and use the unique gifts and talents that I have in the service of others. And that really was the beginning of my journey to take everything I learned as a consultant, helping people in Fortune 100 companies, the GMs and the Harley Davidsons of the world, and bring it down to the small and medium-sized business level. So that's my quick snap. When you love what you do, then it doesn't feel like a job, but that's exactly been my experience over this 11 years is I love what I do. I love working with the people I work with. I make a difference in their lives every day, every month, every year, and the people that they serve. And that's this domino ripple effect of working together like that. And it's just incredible. I just love what I do, and every day I get to do it with great people doing incredible things.
Well, and I know that that comes through authentically and genuinely, your love for what you do, because every time I'm around you, you exude this genuine, authentic desire to help people move forward in their life, right? Just like you with the stepping stones behind you. And this is going to sound a little bit like a broken record, because in the past I've constantly mentioned, especially on this live cast, the book Halftime, where Bob Buford makes, the statement that you could live a life of success and not be significant, but it's impossible to live a life of significance and not be successful. And what's so great about what you do in your story is you had the success and you realized that. And it's like, well, something's missing. So Jeff, I know you have a lot of wisdom and insight to share with us. You have a very specific process when it comes down to how you coach, how you consult individuals, organizations through the various steps that you mentioned that are symbolized behind you. Let's kind of get into the meat and potatoes of that. Talk us through kind of your philosophy around coaching and consulting when it comes to individual purpose and organizational purpose.
All right. So first of all, I have to be honest with you. I don't have a process. And the reason for that is there's so many people that do the kind of work that I do in the broad sense, that have like an 8-step process, and they take the individual and they cram them in that process. And then individual and organizations trying to deal with something in their business, and this is really uncomfortable. I don't like change. You don't like change. And so it's difficult to go through that process. And so what I do is I have a customized approach to each and every one of my clients. I meet people exactly where they're at in their journey, personally and in their business. And so in that work that we do together, fundamentally, it really starts out with the philosophy. And you might have heard this, and others on the calls may have heard this too, is that fundamentally you've seen the 7 P's of business, and you'll see like a chart that has like products and price and people all around a circle around the target market in the center. My philosophy is very different from that, in that in the center is this huge circle that's people. And all those other things are on the outside, because people are the ones that do everything. People hire other people. People create products. People create strategic partnerships and relationships. And so people are like the center of everything in the work that I do. And so most people, when they say, hey, can you help us, open up a second location, grow our business, whatever the specific business need they have, in the end, the underlying issue or challenge is always things that are going on with people in the organization, right? What I see most organizations do is they fail to understand or connect to people's unique gifts and talents. They have titles and roles. This is your role, project manager. This is your role, sales manager, whatever those roles are. And they don't take into account people's unique gifts. And that's where people struggle then. Then they're doing things that may not be in their gift set, and they keep tripping and stumbling. And so the magic to it all is really aligning responsibilities and roles with the unique gifts and talents of each of the individuals on the team. So we're all born with unique gifts and talents. And the challenge that we have is that most of us don't know what those are. Even when we have someone telling us, hey, you're really good at this, we discount that. And one of the things about the unique gifts that we have is that the only obstacle between your unique gifts and talents and those people in the world so desperately need it is you. And so it's really about getting out of your own way, which is a journey of its own, but it's completely doable. And so when we have unique gifts and talents, which we all do, every single one of us have unique talents, one of the first things we have to do is take that gift and unwrap it and understand what that gift is. And the thing is that most people don't take the time to do that. Most people believe things about themselves that simply aren't true. And even for those people who take the time to unwrap their gifts, when they open it up, they don't believe it. They don't believe that they're a great leader. They don't believe that they've been called to do this. Who am I to do this, right? So one of the biggest things is that all of us are challenged, myself included, with believing things about ourselves that simply aren't true. And the things that happened earlier in our lives and across our experience, that I'm not smart, I'm not a good leader, I'm never be able to do this because I'm not athletic, or whatever those things are. There's just things that simply aren't true. They're false narratives, and somehow they've been ingrained. And what they do is they cover up who we truly are. We lose sight of our true identity. And what it really comes down to as well is that in terms of unwrapping that, in terms of going into that, is the work that I do with my clients is really about rediscovering those things that have always been true, which is actually a definition of revelation, meaning the things that have always been true no matter what. It's always been true. You may not believe it, but it's always true. And the work that I do with my clients, as you see in the stepping stones behind me, is an iterative process. We go just at the right speed that's for your particular journey, and you have an experience. It doesn't matter what Jeff says. It really doesn't. You just have to lean into that, and you will have your own experience. And you will rediscover the things that are true about yourself. And that will give you confidence to step further into the journey and your calling and your purpose. Now, what's interesting about gifts is that everybody has unique gifts and talents, which you've heard me say. But one of the biggest thing that most organizations is they have just titles on the org chart. These titles, these are managers, these are salespeople, whatever the titles are, here's your responsibilities. But they ignore the unique gifts of everybody on the team. And the cool part is when you tune into those gifts and have people work in their gift space, it unleashes their energy, their creativity, their enthusiasm is through working through their gifts. So I'll give you an example. So I work with a CPA firm, and they have 3 staff accountants. And so they all have the same role and the same title in the organization. And the thing is that as I spent time with each of the people on the team, in the end, they all had unique gifts and talents. So one of them really loves to he's a people person, wants to be out there creating relationships. So we created a role for him, an additional role besides accounting, to do business development. And we don't just say, here, go do this. We changed his comp structure to incentivize him to do that. We self-funded the comp structure so that if he achieves those goals, we'll be able to pay him. We also freed up his bandwidth. He backfilled responsibility so he could be out there creating strategic partnerships. This particular CPA firm was growing so quickly through the work that we're doing together, we were opening up a second location. So we were doing the launch of that location. And so we have a big kind of launch party, a lot of people there. And I'm watching another person of those 3 people there, and he's like a fish out of water. He really doesn't care. You can tell he does not like that kind of environment. So that would definitely not be a great thing for him to be business development, because that's just not his gifts. But he's really talented in the technology, IT kind of space. So he's like the frontline, fix things in the office person. And then the third person is really good at people and processes. And so that person really is like a personal development person overall. And what's interesting too is that that person's gifts were like something that the principal of the firm doesn't have. And so again, those 3 people were given roles that they lean into those things and get to do what they're really good at. And guess what? The things that they're really good at are the things that either the firm itself or our customers, or a combination, really need it really bad. And so they step into that. And so there's this kind of glue that happens with the individual and the organization serving, that they get to spend more time doing what they're really, really good at. And so that's really what it's about, tuning into the gifts, unwrapping those gifts, having people understand that those are gifts, and then being able to actually have that be part of their daily responsibilities is that. And you just have an energy that happens that you can never fathom because of people being able to spend in their gifts. It's when we're not in our gifts and we do things sometimes that we're not good at, but we're required to do, that we struggle.
Mm.
That's not good for the individual, and that's not good for the organization. So it's really important to really tune into each person's unique gifts so that they can serve others in the way that they've been called to serve.
That's so good. And one of the things that you said early on there that I think was so powerful was that the only thing holding you back from using your gifts in a way that people need to experience them is you. And it's for both sides. I know we both know Stephanie Martin from Purpose Point, and she said on her live cast, she said, she's a writer. One of her gifts is writing. She wrote a book, and she said writing is not only good for the reader, it's therapeutic for the writer, because I'm using my gift, and I feel like I'm in the center of my purpose when I'm utilizing the gift that I've been given to help others. And I heard another person say, that you're actually robbing people of the experience to feel the joy that they can have when you operate in the fullness of your purpose by sharing your gift with them.
I have clients that sit down with them, and usually by the second, third meeting, I can see what their gifts are, and I can also see where they are hesitant or have disbelief around that actual gift. And I can say all the words I want in the world, but really it comes down to experiencing that firsthand. That's what that EXP in my URL, mosaicexp.com stands for. EXP is the experience. In a lot of ways, it doesn't matter what Jeff says. It's the experience that you have when you step into your gifts. So that's the gift side of the work that I do.
I think that is so important, your emphasis on the gifts piece, because we've shared this before, that a lot of people misconstrue purpose into how can I get paid to do what I love to do? Or how can we as an organization make more money by doing, whatever it is that we do? And it really, those are elements, but it really comes down to, no. What is it that you are good at? What are your talents, gifts, abilities that you have? And where is the need that those need to be met? And one of the things that I love that you just said there was that the only thing holding you back from your gift being shared with the people who need it is you. That was so powerful. I think so many times we get caught into comparing ourselves individually to other people's talents and gifts and abilities. We get caught as organizations to catching up with other organizations and where are we at and where are they at and what more can we do and how much market share can we gain, all of those things. And so we're so inward focused in terms of, me, and where do I stand, versus being outward focused and saying, how can I help? Where is the need? Where can my gifts contribute or even add to the symphony of where other people are sharing their gifts rather than matching mine up? And we hold ourselves back because we're too busy comparing. It's the biggest stumbling block that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the really, what I find in the work that I do is that fundamentally, when you put making money ahead of being of service, that's where the disconnect happens. Now, obviously, as businesses, we need to make money, but when you focus and lean into serving others, the money flows like crazy right behind that, but you got to lean into it. And the work that I do with my clients is we take these stair-step, iterative approach to it. So it's not jumping in the deep end of the pool at any time. It's very doable.
That's awesome. So what would you say for, those, we can tend to sometimes paint this like it's all sunshine and rainbows, right? It's like, oh, you can follow this process, then this process, then this process, then you arrive at your purpose, then that's, but we know that it's not this smooth sailing approach, right? In fact, I was making the reference earlier to, the water, and I can't stop looking at the water running through the stepping stones behind you. Like, what do you do when adversity comes and you're standing on one of those stones and all of a sudden the water comes and is like you weren't expecting it, and it's knocking you off the stone that you were standing on and preventing you from getting to the next one. How do you deal with adversity? And I mean, this year, probably more than ever, we've all dealt with some level of adversity. I don't think there's anyone who's been excluded from that this year. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, from a challenges, obviously the COVID that we're situation that we've been involved with and continue to be involved with radically changed everything and anything. So the strategies and activities that you did in your business on February 1st are not going to be effective on April 1st, and they won't be effective on July 1st. And the ones that we use here on July 1st won't be effective necessarily on September 1st. So it's really about hyper adaptation to the changes in the marketplace. Literally every day things are changing. So we need to change, and we as humans don't like to change. We like our comfort zone. And so it's really about focusing ourselves on what do we have to do to adapt to that. And the cool part is it's all very, in the end, the work that I do with my clients is really, it's about rediscovering truths about themselves. And I call them revelations. And when I say that, it's truth that has always been. And so when they rediscover the truth about themselves, they could step in and do things that they've never done before. I've had clients of mine that I've worked with just for a month. And at the end of that first month, I said, could you imagine that you're hiring someone to replace yourself in your business? And that person was just like, I can never even fathom that. I said, you know what? I didn't fathom that either, because the work we do together is in a journey that we go on together, and it unfolds. And it's really about taking steps like the ones behind me that are the right size at the right time, and you will experience safety and comfort in those steps. And you have to experience it firsthand to be able to do that. So, it's interesting. A lot of the work that I do is, I would call myself kind of a pattern expert. If you think about, our brains are wired to identify or recognize patterns. It gives us the ability to fill in missing letters or words, to see, animal shapes and clouds in the sky, and even recognize someone's face. And so, actually, in our minds, like patterns, we like to see them. So let me, share a quick number pattern. So if I say the pattern 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2, as I say that, they're like, okay, it's a pattern 1 2 1 2. As I continue through that, if I go 1 2 1 2 1 2 8 1 2 1 2 1 2, and there's just that 1 8 sitting there, it breaks the pattern. And when you hear that 8, you actually probably felt something like, that's weird, because the pattern's 1 2 1 2. Something's out of place. And so part of what I do in my work is I'm a pattern expert. As a consultant, executive coach, I identify problems, patterns that are literal obstacles to the strategies and plans and goals that an organization or individual desires to achieve. And often the patterns identify ones that are unseen or difficult to see. And so, on the one hand, it's easy to be, I'm the guy that'll tell you there's spinach in your business's teeth when it's obvious something's stuck in your teeth, right? That's the easy thing to do. But I also am I'm an elephant whisperer as well, as that kind of like the elephant in the room starts out teeny tiny. And if people don't talk about that issue, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then people say, we're trying to grow and we haven't been able to reach this goal. Well, it's because Tom is over sales and Tom isn't a fit for that seat on the bus. So it's really about recognizing the pattern, and then an invitation to say, is that something that you want to explore and go into? And what's interesting about the pattern is sometimes it's hard to see the pattern when you're so close to it. Like a mosaic. If you were to look at like a 6x6 square of a mosaic, it just looks like random pieces. But as you step back and zoom out, you see the full picture. And each of our lives is just like that. It's hard to see the pattern when we're literally living inside of it. And so the question is, for those people seeking purpose, is, are you tired of living life stuck in the pattern? The one, get up, get ready, get the kids ready, send them to school, go to work, come home, eat, sleep, repeat, day in, day out, week in, way out. That's the daily pattern. Living to work, working to live. And so, and I already talked about the lifetime pattern, that script I said earlier in our conversation. And so we stay in the pattern because we find comfort in the pattern. It's familiar, it's predictable. It's in our comfort zone, but it's also boring. And so we stay in that pattern. And the question is like, how do we escape the pattern? And I promise this to you and everyone on this, is listening and watching this recording. It really comes down that a life of adventure waits beyond the pattern. And the key to that adventure is purpose. When you live your purpose, you step into your purpose, every day is an adventure. You won't know exactly how the day will unfold, but it's awesome and exhilarating. And I can say that from speaking from truth, from my own personal experience in my journey, but also in every single day of all the clients that I've helped over the 11 years that I've had my private practice. The adventure waits beyond the pattern.
That's so good. And, I know that you kind of already shared earlier about how you broke that pattern and how you wanted to have that moment of significance in your years of coaching and doing what you're doing and helping people to recognize that pattern and break it. When was the moment that you first recognized purpose in your work as a coach, as a consultant, that impact that you made in others? Is there a story that was kind of like the light bulb that went off where you were like, yes, here, this is it. This is where I'm living in the heart of my purpose?
It's interesting. I would say the story I shared earlier about the pivot from the pattern, the lifetime pattern, into a life of purpose. But the thing is, I tell you one thing, it was scary. It was so scary to leave the corporate cocoon and go off on my own to do what I do. And I can't pinpoint to one moment, because right now I'm blessed to live every moment that way, working with my clients. Every day it's like, this is why I'm here, because I see in them stepping deeper into their purpose and their experience and their adventure. And I'm alongside of that. And like I said, you never know how it's going to unfold. All I know, it is incredible what happens. And so it is more of a daily experience, and it's a journey too. I mean, you can say those 2 moments of waking up bored out of my skull and then having that presentation forward was a pivotal moment, defining moment for me. But that was like behind me was just one stepping stone, right? And so my journey continues. And that's true for all of us. So as we continue on our journey, it will unfold and unfold and unfold. And I guarantee you'll be doing things that you never fathomed you can do. And they'll be the same things that I would have never fathomed you can do. It's only by stepping into that the next thing unfolds, that the next step is revealed. And it's crazy fun. It's crazy, crazy fun. I love it.
So for those who are listening today and even in the future who are encouraged by your words, saying, you know what, I need to take that step. I need to take that step from the stone that I'm on to the next stone. And yes, maybe the waters are scary, right? Maybe leaving that cocoon is uncomfortable. What would you say as a starting point, a word of encouragement for those who said, you know what, yes, I do want to live more purposefully. I do want to step out. How would you encourage them to start?
I think the first step to that is doing a little inventory about what you believe about yourself. Do you believe that I'm not smart? Do you believe that I can't be a leader? Do you believe? So I would go through an inventory of the things that are often negative that you believe about yourself. You don't have to figure out why you believe that. Just put down, here's the things that I believe about myself. And then from there, then it's really an exploration of like, is this true? And the easiest step to do is go to anyone that you know and trust. And don't go there with the laundry list. Pick one of those things and say, I've been thinking about, I don't think I'm a good leader. I don't think I could lead something. And ask that person, what do you think? And if you know and trust them, they should be able to speak truth into you. And more often than not, you're going to hear like, are you crazy? You're awesome at that. And that simple thing would reveal those things you believe about yourself that simply aren't true. And it sounds simple, but that is that first stepping stone is that.
That is so good. And that's the first time I've actually heard of that approach to a starting point of finding purpose. But I think that also applies to anyone. It doesn't matter where you're at in your journey of purpose. I think we can all stand to stop at some point in time and do a self-inventory of what are those negative, limiting self-beliefs that are holding me back from the fullness of my potential and my purpose and the impact that I can have on the lives of others. Let me stop, take an inventory of those, and then ask myself, are these true? Do I really believe that? And then to your point, going to people that you can trust and asking what they think, because they will often give you a very different perspective. I mean, a great example, we all hate the sound of our voices. I know we'll both listen to this at some point, be like, oh gosh, I can't stand how I sound. And then other people are like, oh, you sound great. I mean, that's just a great example of how we're always our own worst critics, but people hear and see things from a different perspective and experience using your EXP, us ways differently than we experience ourselves. So
Absolutely.
Well, as we wrap up here today, what is one final thought that you would have for those listening today and those listening in the future that would encourage them on their path to purpose?
So here's what I'd like to share. So for those of you who are watching and listening to this livecast, recording, whatever you're doing right now, essentially, I talked earlier about this. You broke the pattern. You took the time to be part of this. The easy thing to do right now, when this is over, is for you to re-enter your pattern, to go right back to work, to go home, eat, sleep, wake up, repeat, do the same things, get the same outcomes. This moment right now is your invitation to a life of adventure. Are you willing to answer the call?
So good. Everything you shared today was so powerful, but it's only as powerful as what we do with it. And so I appreciate that call to action for each person who's listening today and those that are be listening in the future. Today, we are here with Jeff Zupancic. Jeff is the founder of Mosaic Business Consulting. He's an executive coach. He's an organizational consultant, strategist, and you can follow him on LinkedIn, Facebook. You can visit mosaicexp.com. And of course, you can find him on our purposepoint.com webpage. You will also be able to catch a recording of this on our YouTube channel and Purpose Point channels. We hope that you will join us next time for another episode of the Finding Purpose livecast, where we sit down with more thought leaders like Jeff and authors and speakers and business leaders of purpose. Till next time, live purposefully.